and not much else. Those basic exercises are compound and they use the most muscles at one time. As you can see with Drew's selection of exercises here, his whole body was completely worked. People tend to think they need to work every head of the deltoid. It's not necessary. They need to do a definition exercise after a mass building exercise. It's not necessary. You work at that kind of intensity, every single fiber in the deltoid is working, or whatever other muscle, and every other muscle is working. Unfortunately, most people are also want to be able to train safely and efficiently. So using proper technique is very, very important. And choosing the proper exercises, if you don't do the proper technique, it's not going to matter if you have the proper exercises in your program, because you're not going to get what you want out of that. One of the things that I've seen training, I've been training for the past 6 years or so in gyms, and there's a very small percentage, probably maybe 2 out of 10 people that actually perform their exercises properly. And on the squat and the deadlift, it's probably even less. So and there's other trainers, you could probably look at almost every person and figure out a way that you can make their technique better. Now, I hope this is okay. I just want to push this book. We have a few up at the front. It's Stuart McRoberts' Insider's Tell-All Handbook on Weight Training Technique. Ideally, I don't like to tell somebody to go do something unless I really have a chance and I know that they're going to do it properly. And in here, you're going to find the technique on all the basic exercises. Okay, if it's not in here, you don't really need it. Okay, and it's mostly the free weights. Then you guys go into a little bit of machines, how you can do the same exercise. But here you'll find 10 to 15 pages, detailed explanation of how to do the squat and the deadlift. You don't find that anywhere else. Okay, you'll see most of the time, I like the magazines where they have 3 little lines about how to do the deadlift, and it's like, it's a lot more to it than that. There's no way. I mean, you got to watch people. You got to, just like Drew was saying, in the moment, you've got to be picking here and here and here. They might be able to read those few lines. That's not going to get their whole technique that they need to perform that exercise. So that is paramount for safety and for producing results. You also have the book Brawn. Okay, it's also up there. And he goes over a lot of the basic exercises. I think he got so many questions probably on technique that it prompted him to write this book. But here you will find more information about putting routines together and more of the general ideas that we're covering here today with the mental aspects of training as well as recovery, things like that. The progression, recovery, and intensity. Those are all the major parts of making up a program. And of course, what I'm talking about today, exercise selection. So we're not lifting weights just to build strength, to demonstrate strength. Unless, powerlifting or Olympic lifting is your sport, you're going to do this for various reasons. For our clients or people that we train ourselves, we want to feel better, we want to be healthier, we want to increase our productivity and live more comfortably, be able to avoid those injuries that you might have just doing something, picking up something that, it might be sand, it might be the 50-pound sandbag and putting your kid's plaything outside. So anytime you need to be prepared for anything, but especially if you're training the average person who's coming in, it's going to be real obvious that you need an all-around training program. So I think the same thing for athletes too. But in either case, you're going to want a program that's tailored for the individual. I had a client of mine named Karen. She had a really bad car accident about 10 years ago. About 8 years ago, she came to see me. And until that point, she had been taking, probably about 4 Advil every morning before she got out of bed because she was in so much pain. Well, obviously, we started out very slowly. There was a question to Bob about where you start somebody, because I work people out hard, and I work out hard. But we started out as basic things that we could do, that you could actually do, and just built up on them. And today, I mean, she had her motivation. She wanted to get up, stop her pain. She has a son. She works all the time, 5-year-old, 6-year-old son. Well, she wants to be able to play with him, have him jump into her arms. But she's now doing pull-ups by herself. She's in no pain, okay, except for after she sees me. She deadlifts, and what we do is we use a trap bar deadlift, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. Now, in the case of athletes specifically, we want to maximize their athletic potential and protect them from injury. So we do that with safe, balanced routines. Drew mentioned that again. You want to work the front, the back of the legs, front and back of the upper body. All the major muscle groups, and not only those that are deemed primary to the sport. Multi-sport athletes is a perfect example. Got a football player going straight into basketball. You don't want to have them not be able to do everything. So as best you can, you want to prepare them for anything. You hear about the people getting hurt. They're a football player or whatever, they go out and they play basketball, and that's where they get hurt. They get hurt on the football field. So you want to be prepared for those people. Firefighters, those people don't know what they're going to run into, and they have to be strong. They have to be able to do their job. I'm looking for, I've got a bunch of firefighters that come into my gym and trying to get together with them and help them out a lot. But no matter how strong an athlete is, if they don't have the skills, they're not going to be successful in their sport. So, I prefer to have people spend time, and you want to spend the minimum amount of time, and you don't need much time, as Drew just demonstrated, to get strong. So you want to spend the minimum amount of time and energy in the gym, okay, and then use that other time to recover and to practice the techniques in the sport, the skills in the sport. So whether you're training an athlete or an average person, you have a basic limited pool of exercises, basic exercises, multi-joint exercises you want to choose from. So, what's in that pool? Now, as Drew said, ideally you can't just label something as a leg exercise or a back exercise or a chest exercise because there's so many muscles involved with each exercise. But for simplicity's sake, if you want to make a balanced program, it's easier to talk about pushing and pulling. Now, in general, I still think of, as everybody will, you want to work your legs, you're going to do squats, deadlifts, leg presses, okay? If you're doing deadlifts, deadlift's a full body exercise. So you are working every muscle. There are workouts that deadlift is the only exercise you do, and you're not going to be missing anything, okay? On another day, you'll do your pushing, okay? But you're going to get every muscle group worked in that exercise. So let's say for your back, your pulling exercises. Okay, I try and get this across to my clients, help them figure out how to make their workouts up when they're not with me. I tell them we want to break it up into pushing and pulling, okay, and a compound movement for the legs. And over the course of a week, you're going to have the pushing and the pulling in the vertical and horizontal planes for the upper body, and then again, just a compound push for the legs. So for the back, or the pulling exercises, we got rows, pull downs, pull-ups, and pullovers. Okay, pullovers, in a strict sense, interpreted strictly, they're considered an isolation exercise, but they're not really. Okay, it's a great movement that you can do most efficiently on a machine, actually. And it's working the pecs, the lats, the shoulders, the triceps, abs, everything in your upper body is really working. Okay, so. That would be something that you would do a pullover, but not a pull-up on the same day. Or, I mean, if you wanted to, you could do one set of each. I mean, we're talking, again, like you've seen here, high intensity. You don't need a lot of work to reach your goals there. And for the chest, you got the bench press and the dips, okay? Again, bench press is an overworked exercise. If people put as much time and energy into the bench press as they did the squat and the deadlift, we have a lot more stronger people walking around on this earth. Dips, I mentioned. So basically, those two exercises you've got it all covered. People think they need to do the incline, the flat, the decline, all in the same day. They're obviously not putting the intensity that Bob talked about into it. Shoulders, overhead press, or as Drew did on here, which you can also do with a trap bar. Some people do the upright row, but here you do what you might call a high pull. Okay, incredible exercise for the shoulders. Okay, shoulder girdle muscles, a lot of bicep work. You can hit it all. And if you ever do that, and especially holding it at the top and then down slowly, and like Drew did, where you can't do any more, your shoulders the next day, you'll probably feel the insertion here like you've never felt it before. For the arms, basic curl. That's all you need, strict curl. You can use dumbbells, you can do hammer curls, but it doesn't need to go much beyond that. No concentration curls, no cable curls, none of that. Reverse curls, yes, because they're going to work their forearms, okay, especially with a thick bar. The close grip bench, excellent exercise, a compound exercise. It's going to work a lot of other muscle groups, and it's going to be much more productive than tricep kick back, as Bob was doing. I like that. Okay, for the midsection, I use side bends, sit-ups, weighted crunches, back extensions, and I'll be talking about those a lot because they're very important, in especially doing squats, deadlifts, and something like the sandbag. But it's simple to create a workout program that will increase your strength and develop a fantastic physique. An example of a productive workout might be Drew's workout. I wrote that down, deadlift. He did the floor press, which was what you would be doing from that position, high pull and the curl, and then he also did the push-ups and the wall sits. Got it. Not many exercises. I had written down the squat, bench press, row. You got your pushing, pulling, compound leg movement. Deadlift, dip, pull up, and then you could expand it a bit, I usually use about 5 exercises in my program. Maybe the squat, bench, row, pull down, overhead press, pushing, pulling in both the vertical and horizontal planes and the compound leg movement. And then you could go with a super hard combination of the squat and straight leg deadlift. Now, if anybody's ever done one right after the other, okay, you're hitting those leg biceps, those hamstrings, the glutes, and the lower back pretty darn hard with the straight leg deadlift or stiff leg deadlift, as if you didn't do it hard enough in the squat beforehand. But if you combine those two, you're going to more directly hit those leg biceps. However, there's many people that do squats, but again, I just want to mention that if you don't go deep enough, you're not going to involve a lot, as much muscle mass and get as much out of it as if you did a full range. And you want to do as full range as possible that's safe for you, okay? So for some people, their back might start rounding, their flexibility isn't that great. But most people can do them. It just takes practice. And again, in the moment, getting into their face about you can go back farther, stay in your heels, everything that this book is going to reinforce for you as trainers. You'll never stop learning. Reread that. But most people, we are brainwashed, not us. The people out there that are reading the muscle magazines daily. I constantly have people cutting pieces out and bringing them into me and see what I think. Well, I just tell them to chuck it, okay, because it's not going to do them any good. It's going to overtrain them, basically, and make them more susceptible to injury. But they say, look at my workouts, and they say, well, that's pretty slack. I mean, what about the other days? What about variety? And I heard you're supposed to do different exercises every workout, so your body doesn't know what to expect. Now, in answer to those questions, the first one sounds pretty slack. Well, obviously, there were many exercises going on here, and that's not slack. So if you're doing it at the right intensity, the proper intensity or sufficient intensity, few exercises are possible, and infrequent training is necessary. You don't just decide not to go in. Like Drew and Bob said, you can't go back in, okay? Now, obviously, you know, if you're working with athletes, you're probably going to, you know, work on something like Drew said. He could recover very quickly. So that's what we need with athletes. They don't need to be in the gym for hours, okay? They have a lot of other energy that they need to put other places. They have a lot of jobs to do, whether it's going to school or being a professional athlete. So the less energy and time you can spend in the gym and still get the same results, then that's the way you got to go. Okay, that's a very big point. It seems to me, so I look at a lot of the workouts, and I don't want to be picky, but I look at in the journals, and I see, you know, they're doing a lot of work, a lot of these players, when it's not necessary. They're spending a lot of energy, and they're setting themselves up just by being more fatigued for more injuries on the field. Okay, not even that they're doing the exercises wrong, which may be also a factor. But there's plenty of variety within the basic exercises. You've got, let's take the bench press. You've got barbell, dumbbell. You've got hammer strength equipment. This is a piece of hammer strength equipment, high quality equipment. You see a lot of the pro teams using it these days. Also the Nautilus pieces, Power Plus, especially the new ones that are made to fit more people. They figured out, you know, ironed out some of the kinks over the years. But all those that variety, you're going to get a different stimulus. You don't need to do incline, decline, flies, cable crossovers, okay? You've got those already down, where those are out, okay? Those are like cuss words in the gym. The other words, the, you know, shit and hell and all that, those aren't. it's the cable crossovers, concentration curls, tricep kickback. Those are cuss words. You know, toning, tone's a 4-letter word, bad one. But somewhere in those basic exercises, you're going to find suitable exercises for everyone, okay? You're going to be able to figure that out. Unfortunately, like we said, people are going to start adding, just for variety, exercises that are totally useless, worthless, and not needed. So, those are exercises that won't contribute anything to strength or size. And they can also contribute to injuries. Now, and as Drew said, as far as variety is concerned, there needs to be consistency, okay, in your routines in order to progress. If you're never doing the same thing, you don't know if you've gotten better at something. So it's consistency within the exercises. You've got a pool of exercises that you find work for somebody. You can rotate within those exercises, but you don't need to vary beyond those. Now I'd like to emphasize the importance of the systemic and indirect effect of squats and deadlifts. Squats and deadlifts and their variations. For instance, on the deadlift, you've got the stiff leg or straight leg deadlift, depending on what you call it. The deadlift, the trap bar deadlift, and the squat. You can use the true squat by Southern Exercise. Or do the front squat, back squat. Again, the form on those are paramount. But they stimulate the entire body. And your overall strength comes from your legs and your torso. So it's necessary, if at all possible, to do those exercises if you want to get strong. Okay? It's not going to happen to the extent that it could if you don't use those exercises. Now, I've got... It doesn't matter who comes in, it's a 65-year-old woman. I'm not going to throw a bar on her back, but I'm going to make her do squats and teach her how to do squats, because in 10, 15, 20 years, she might not be able to get out of the chair. She hasn't learned how to do squats, and she hasn't built those muscles up. Okay? You got to think in those terms. And as far as, you know, a football player, obviously, if they don't do them, you know, they're not going to develop the strength and power they need. We know that. So everybody, and most people can do them. It's just a matter, and people make up excuses why they can't do them. Number one, you know, they think it hurts their knees, and you know, I've heard of people where it actually helps their knees. So we want to make sure that you use the right technique, or it will hurt their knees. So when the body is supporting these large, taxing weights, you know, I've got some people that do squat in their body weight squat, just themselves, no bar. Their legs are shaking. So that's taxing for them. So it's all relative. But when those big muscle groups are working, especially through a large range of motion, your metabolism is stimulated. And that's a bonus for half the people that walk into the gym. They want to lose weight, okay? They don't say fat, they want to lose weight. So by doing these exercises, you can increase your metabolism, but also increase your fat-free mass, which obviously increases your metabolism, increasing muscle mass, meaning. And that can automatically, just by doing that, decrease your body fat percentage. And hormones like testosterone and growth hormone are going to be released in your system because these exercises are stimulating a lot of muscle tissue. And although I have to say at this point, if you do those exercises, it doesn't guarantee you're going to increase your muscle mass and stimulate your metabolism. These exercises have to be challenging, very taxing, and you have to go until you can't go anymore. And that's the main reason why most people avoid these exercises. Okay? You're not going to start where you can't go anymore, like Bob said and Drew said. You're going to build somebody up. But there's no way that your body will not respond to these exercises. So these hormones are also going to affect your bone and connective tissue. Now, and for women especially, osteoporosis, it's a word we hear all the time in the news today, but also from a lot of women that walk in the gym. My grandmother and mother, they're all been diagnosed with osteoporosis. The only way you're going to fight that is if you're loading the spine and the hips, the axial skeleton, okay? Now that you load that by the squats, the deadlifts, the overhead presses, the bench presses. So, and if they're not working hard, again, it's not challenging your system or loading the bones enough for them to respond. So for everybody, it can be safe. You can work people hard. You just have to do it in the right progression, okay? And use the right speed for that person. You don't need to be having a 65-year-old lady doing anything fast. You want to do it nice and slow, but have her work. Obviously, again, build up into it. Now, your body leverages, flexibility, past injuries are all going to dictate which of those basic exercises you use. And most people, as I mentioned earlier, are going to mistakenly assume that they cannot do those exercises. And that is far from the case. So actually, let's see, I use the trap bar as my exercise of choice. I don't know how many of you know what a trap bar is, but a trap bar is a rhombus-shaped bar, okay, like this, and it's got, if you're looking above it, okay, and you stand in the middle of it, okay, and then it's got handles, parallel handles, right here, and you can plate load it, you can load the plates on the sides, just like a regular bar, and then the bar allows you, because the weight is going to be centered through you, and it's not in front of you or behind you, okay, like a regular deadlift or a squat, it's going to improve your balance, okay, and your leverages, and it's going to take stress off your back and your knees because the weight is not in front of you or behind you. It decreases the distance between you and the weight. Anytime you tell people, I always catch my clients and they go to pick up a 25-pound weight and they're reaching like this, you've got to get the weight close to you to protect your back, okay? So in that way, the trap bar is going to help you put things in your favor, balance, leverages, and the like. So it's going to allow you to work harder, get that intensity up. Like this machine here, you can just set yourself there and pull, okay? I've used this machine, thanks Bob. That lasted for about a week, you're right? But I didn't get to crawl underneath and do the floor press or anything. I did the deadlift on there, and we did about a half-hour workout, and I did almost have to pull out Vern's puke bucket over here, which I don't know how many of you have seen. But Bob has it on hand just in case you've gotten to that point, because you're always kind of at the edge, and it might be where you feel that coming up your throat, and it's right there. At the gym, I always say we've got a big puke bucket outside. Just walk out the back door, and there you go. But without the squat and the deadlift, I want to emphasize again that there's no way you're going to equal those in helping to build your strength. And I don't even like to stress size, but strength is the important factor here. There's going to be some size, and for a lot of people genetically, they're going to be limited in their size anyway, but they can still get stronger. So I try and get a lot of the women off especially women, off of the idea that they're going to get huge, okay? And I tell them, yeah, I'd love to be huge, and I work hard. But it's not, it's not something that my genetics are going to do for me. All my relatives walk around with skinny legs, pot bellies, and skinny arms. So our genetics aren't there. I mean, granted, they really haven't worked out to try and see where they are. But I am, and it's not.
Could you take a minute?
So there are cases where someone can't do the deadlift or the squat. And in those cases, we have to resort to doing something like a leg press. And ideally, you've got like a hammer strength leg press, or at least a Nautilus leg press, or something that reduces the shear in the knees and allows, ideally, isolateral work, where each leg is allowed to do its work. For people with hip problems, that might reduce some of the stress, or actually help build that other hip up so the other hip isn't doing more of the work, or legs or knees, whatever. But the fact is that most people can squat and deadlift, and there really aren't any excuses as to why they can't, if it's taught correctly. I'd like to make the point that not much equipment is really needed to get a great workout. Again, obvious by the demonstration. It was perfect to have that right before me. And basically, a barbell is all you need, really, as far as the minimum. Okay? And then some people wouldn't even say that. When you got great things like a sandbag, you got cars to push, sleds to pull, rocks to roll. You've probably seen pictures of those. And there's also barrels to lift, but they're not as safe as sandbags, because if you drop a sandbag on your foot, it's not going to really do anything. If barrel, it will. I don't know if any of you have heard the stories about like McIntyre. I don't know if you know who he is. He was in one of the NSCA journals. They were spotlighting him on the wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, his routine. He was in the last Olympics. And he was pushing a truck up a small grade. And that was working his legs, his whole body, like nothing else could. Okay, it was doing an exercise that you couldn't even simulate in the weight room. Okay, so things like that, we want to take advantage of what we have outside the gym too. A few of us, again, have finished the workout with that sandbag. It's a love-hate thing. You love the effects, you hate doing it, but it works. And working with those odd, awkward-shaped objects forces your body to work the muscles in much different ways. And it makes a seemingly lightweight. That weight, 225, on a trap bar for him would probably be, no problem, wouldn't tax him nearly as much as carrying that thing around like that. When I carried that, I had to get my name on there, I had to carry 150 pounds around his course. And that's more than I weigh, which, it was very taxing. And I did it yesterday, just to kind of get me fired up for this day. And it wasn't as hard, so I know I'm getting somewhere here. But when you don't have a nice little small diameter bar to hold on to, like in the gym, if you've been training like this, you're going to be able to handle the situation. Okay, you're going to be able to deal with those people that aren't nice, they don't have nice little handles on them when you want to push them around. The training, using these exercises, using these objects, is functional, and it creates usable strength in the entire body, including, especially, the stabilizers and your grip. I feel like using the free weights and the machines and odd objects in conjunction with each other to create a most efficient workout. So we did see a combination again here, machines, the free weight bar, body weight, and the sandbag. So let's see, free weights and object lifting require more balance, and they train people to coordinate and stabilize. One of those that I use a lot is overhead pressing with a barbell or dumbbells with people. And I do that standing, have them do it standing up. Yes, we want to work the shoulders primarily, the triceps, the shoulder girdle muscles when we do that exercise, and you can isolate that more when you do that sitting on a machine. And I do that, I alternate that in. But if you never train pushing something over your head while you're standing up, your body's not going to know what that's about. So, you know, for women, I mean, picking something up, putting it up on the shelf, if they've never done that with a weight, they're going to be a lot less confident, and they might even, you know, possibly hurt themselves. I might be exaggerating a little bit. If it's something heavy that they're trying to do, it's going to help them a lot. So bracing the body is key for the big exercises, and there's a need that I feel there's a need to really work and isolate the stabilizers. Stabilizers specifically are the torso muscles, the abdominals, obliques, lower back. And an exercise that I've used for myself because, like Drew said, he's been hurt before. I've been hurt before. Everybody that trains seriously with weights has been hurt before. You know, it was my lower back. It wasn't ready. And over time, over the last year, I've really focused on this excellent exercise called the side bend. Now, it's not the typical, you know, that you see in the gym where people are basically dancing when they're doing it. There's a lot of technique to it. You've got to stabilize your body, and you actually get to work specifically with stabilizers. But these exercises, along with the effects of the side bends in here too, along with the effects of the other exercises, because the squats and deadlifts make you work those stabilizers, they're going to create a natural weight belt, okay? It's going to create intra-abdominal pressure to help support and stabilize the spine. Now, you can use a weight belt to do that, but why use that when you don't have to, if you can build those muscles up to do the job? So if you don't have your weight belt one day, it's not going to, when you're out there and you need to help somebody move, it's not going to be a problem. So the only time that I really have people use the weight belt is if I feel like they really want to. And if we've been building up progressively with the routine, it's not going to be a problem because they're going to be prepared for that weight. But somebody that's doing very low reps, okay, trying for, you know, if they're going to be competing, you're going to want to use a belt. They allow that in the powerlifting competitions. But if possible, if you're training people for functional strength, ideally, don't use a belt, okay? And I'm not making a universal suggestion that you don't use a belt, but if you want to build those muscles up and you have started from the beginning, you're building it gradually. Obviously, if you're going to go to not using a weight, you back off the weight a little bit, build yourself back up. But it's an exercise that's the side bend that I just can't say enough about. And there are people that you are going to shoot for a 100-pound dumbbell. You do it with a dumbbell, one hand. Most people have to start out with no weight. I do anyway, even if they can do more, and we just progressively go up to the next weight. I'm shooting for, I've been stuck at 65 pounds right now for a while, so I'm working on that, but it helps me so much. I don't use a belt anymore, and before I'd be laying on the floor, my back would be in pain after deadlifts or squats. But my next point is that machines are not necessary, but they can be advantageous, and I mentioned that a couple of times as far about the pullover deadlift here. Most people have never seen that. Okay, until I was at Bob's, I had never seen that myself. But they can be advantageous, and actually in this case, you're dipping down real low to pick up that thing, so it's not like it's any easier to do. Now, ideally, if you're going to use machines, you are doing the basic exercises, but yet on a machine. So, and on a quality machine, okay? Again, Hammer Strength, Nautilus, the true machines by Southern Exercise, these are quality machines. Quality machines are going to reduce the joint, stresses on the joints. So that's what you want to look for. And there are some machines where they try and tell you that you're going to be moving through a full range of motion and arcing all the way out. That's putting a lot of stress on the shoulder that you don't need to do. You naturally are going to push something. You're going to push something like that. You're not going to push out here and around, okay? There's some machines that are in my own gym, and I have a great selection of machines that I don't go near because I think they're dangerous, okay? So, let's see, there's situations where you might choose machines over the free weights, even if you have access to or you have plenty of free weights. If there's limited time, the technique on the free weights is much more involved. It takes more time and energy to learn the technique. And so if you got somebody that's coming in that's new, you don't have much time to spend with them in the gym situation, which is where I work, a lot of times you're going to do using machines. However, I do like to try and keep some free weight exercises in the routine, especially the lighter exercises where you're not dealing with a lot of weight even when it gets harder. Curls, overhead presses, things like that. So you're forced, even with a curl, you're being forced to stabilize your entire body if you're going to do it properly and not be swinging your body all over the place to heave the bar up. And the machines also allow people with leverages that aren't so great, very tall people, basketball players, football players that might be real tall, or have a limiting factor. Again, that leg press. And if you're lucky enough to have a true squat, like Bob, which I also had the pleasure to train on, it is something that anybody can do, no matter how tall you are. And if you can't do the squat, you're going to be able to do the squat on that machine. If you're rehabbing someone, hammer strength is great because it starts out at virtually no resistance. I have a guy who's had cancer, he's been paralyzed, he's, you name it, he's had it. And he came to me from his physical therapist, and she said, she wanted him to work his rhomboids, his lats, basically the back muscles. She didn't even want him to do any real pushing exercises. So I've got him on the hammer strength, iso row, and iso pull down. There's no way he could grab over his head. He's got cervical arthritis too. There's no way he could grab over his head to grab onto the bar. So out in the front, however, the iso pull down, I don't know if you know what it is, but you sit down and you're pulling here. So you're getting the same benefits from the motion, but you're starting out in front. It's much easier on the shoulder joints, and he's actually also taking a reverse grip, which is going to allow him to work the lats through a greater range of motion and bring in the biceps. Okay, so he's getting more things done at one time. You would never put anybody up on a pull-up bar for the first time if they can hardly do a pull-up and have them do it like this. You want to be able to have them do it. You want to be able to take advantage of the lats, so you're going to take an underhand grip. People think, oh, that's the easy way to do it. Well, yeah, we want to load those lats up as much as possible. So if you can do it that way, do your pull downs that way. Again, overhand's fine, but if you want to work the lats through a greater range of motion, get the biceps involved. I don't spend very much time on the biceps, triceps, because I do feel like you get enough work from the compound pressing, pulling movements for those muscle groups. Rows, bent over rows would be very difficult for this man. So we use the support you get from the hammer strength machine. There are people, obviously, that can do bent over rows with a barbell or one-arm rows with a dumbbell. In either case, for this guy, there's no way he could do it. So machines can be advantageous. Again, for dips, okay, there's a seated dip on the Nautilus and the hammer strength. Some people can't do the dips on the parallel bars because of their shoulder. They can do them, but they can't, it'll kill their shoulder. They can do the dips on those machines, get the benefits, and not have the shoulder pain or problems. So, a lot of people think, that I'm more into free weights, but that's not the case. Also specialized work, neck, grip, calves, those are all easier to regulate or quantify when you're doing it. You know how much pressure or resistance you're getting rather than always doing the manual. And it's also more structured if you're doing it on a machine, whether you're doing manual or using it, like for instance with the neck or head strap. The technique is a little harder there. A lot of machines tend to be isolation. That's one of the reasons that I'm not too big on machines in general. And isolation exercises aren't very efficient use of time and energy, and they end up resulting in too much volume and in overtraining and putting too much stress on the joints. You're going to find that you're going to get those muscle groups again using those compound exercises. Now, isolation work has its place, and you're going to want to do it sometimes. It's fine. But those exercises cannot take the place of these basic multi-joint exercises and shouldn't be the main focus of any workout. So for the arms, just to finish out here, the curl, bicep curl, I can assure you that when somebody's curling 150 to 200 pounds, you know, very few people that can do that, but there are people that can do that, that it's not an isolation movement, it's a full body exercise because you are stabilizing the entire body to do that. You're working everything. Now the closed grip bench, okay, again, it can be much more productive building up your tricep strength and size than any other tricep exercise you're going to do. So it's easier to put you're going to be able to load those triceps with a lot more weight because you're doing that pressing motion. But it's going to be safer on those elbows. And just a note, when you're doing a closed grip bench, a lot of people use a grip that's much too narrow, okay? You want to use basically a shoulder width grip, okay? People still want to take it in. It's about shoulder width, and you want to keep the elbows in, but you know, it's not even something you consciously need to do. It's the grip width that I get concerned about. And again, no bouncing. You know, we could stand here all day, all week, and all year, and go over the techniques in these exercises, and we don't have time to do that. But again, these small exercises only have a local effect. If you don't have much time or energy, you're going to do the big exercises, work all muscle groups that you can with the big exercises. And there's no comparison between a workout that's mostly isolation versus one that's mostly compound. So, the bottom line, we want to maximize everyone's potential, again, as Bob had said earlier. And the thing I've found is that most people have no idea where their potential is. They automatically say, I can't do that. Well, you will be able to. You can't now, no, but you will. And we got to help people do that. And we help them to do that by doing the basic exercises with them. That's the quickest way that they're going to realize their potential, not doing the smaller isolation exercises. You want to do the minimum amount of work that's necessary. Obviously, there's a point of diminishing returns. You want to hit that minimum that you need to get the results and get out of the gym. And if you don't get stronger on these exercises, then there's something else wrong. You're not working hard enough, your intensity isn't high enough, and you know, we have to keep enforcing that, because that's, I say usually when I'm in the gym, that there's more wasted time in the gym than on the beltway, okay? People sitting in their cars, just like this. That's about what people are doing for themselves a lot of the time in the gym. So either you're not putting the intensity in, or you're not allowing yourself enough recovery, okay? If you're coming in 5 days a week, that tells me you're not working very hard, okay? If you're working really hard, I'm not going to see you for a few days, okay? So you've got to make sure you're recovering, and if you do come in before you're recovered, you're not going to be able to do justice to the workout, and your muscles will not have recovered enough, and you're going to stay where you are, and your muscles can actually start atrophying if you keep working too hard, and on a regular basis, you can get sick, okay, and hurt. So recovery, people feel like they need to be on a schedule. I usually work out Monday and Thursday, but for instance this week, there was no way I could do Thursday. I had to wait until yesterday to work out because I had really worked so hard on Monday, and that was a half an hour workout. Okay, so it didn't obviously take many exercises to do that. But the basic point, again, is simplicity. The basic exercises, keep it simple. And we have to realize that the fact is that less can frequently be more. Okay, you're going to get more returns for less time put in. Okay, not less effort, but less time and less energy overall. And I'd like to thank you very much for your time and attention.